Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for watching another episode of my show, Interviews with Entrepreneurs in South Africa. Today, I'm very excited to be introducing you to Karin Botha, who has a wonderful media business. And Karin, I'll leave it up to you to tell everybody about what you do and why you do it.
Thanks, Mel. So my company is called Blurb Magic. I'm a social media company. I concentrate on small businesses, generally your 1 to 10 sort of employees businesses. And I help people just get their business online and to stay current, to stay visible, a lot of brand awareness. Because I find that a lot of people they know they need to be on social media, but they've got no idea where to start and what to do and what do I say. And I can't say the same thing every day, or otherwise they just want to sell. So this is where I come in. I help my clients. I do little training sessions with them. Generally speaking, though, after training, they want me to do it because people don't realize how much goes into just being present on social media. So that's what I do. I concentrate mostly on Facebook and Instagram. I also have some clients who do LinkedIn. And yes, that's pretty much me in a nutshell, just helping creating content, making pretty pictures, making sure that they are visible all over the place, you know, on their own page as well as groups, and then obviously with advertising too.
So it's interesting to hear you say that you focus on Facebook and Instagram. There's so many different platforms. Why do you focus on those two?
I found that for my clients, that's where their clients hang out.
Okay.
So, you know, they generally are business to customer clients, so not business to business. As I said, I've got 1 or 2, we are business to business, and I'll focus more on your LinkedIn, etc. there. But most of my clients, you know, and we go where their clients would be.
Okay.
And it's quite easy, quite user-friendly, so that's where we focus.
Okay. And you say you use Facebook groups quite a lot?
A lot. We find that, sorry, I have an ice cream truck here. We find that a lot of our business actually comes from groups. You know, a lot of my clients are very small budget people. They've got home businesses. They don't have massive amounts of money to spend on advertising.
Yes.
So we try and, you know, use your organic reach as well as obviously your ad paid for reach. And organically, groups is where we get good results. You know, it's just being present. It's constantly giving advice, answering, not just selling. And then if somebody's looking for the service, to also be present, you know, to advertise.
Okay, and do you feel that working the groups works better than, say, for example, paid adverts on your Facebook page?
I think you've got to combine them. You know, you've got to, so your advertising is more targeted. So you're going to reach people who are actually looking for your service or, you know, the correct ideal clients. So you can target your adverts, whereas your groups are more general and you're not going to have such a targeted audience. However, I think when you combine the two, you get a really good reach, you know, because you might not be maybe reaching the person who you're targeting, but you could be reaching their friend or their sister or their daughter or somebody who might not come up in your targeted adverts, and they might in turn recommend you. So I also find that being present on groups, a lot of people start recommending your service without even knowing you, just because they've become familiar with you. Yes. And you become almost like a bit of a household name. So you become, you know, familiar, and people trust people who are familiar.
Yes.
So I feel that it's a really important part of what we do is the groups.
Okay. And what do you think the biggest challenges are for your customers at this current time?
Money. They don't have enough to spend on advertising, to be honest, you know.
Okay.
So ideally they would all have these wonderful budgets. We could run evergreen adverts, we could run ads every single day and make sure they're constantly in front of the right people, targeted people, but they don't have the budgets. So their biggest challenge is to reach as many people as possible, as many of the right people as possible with the smallest possible budget, you know. So I think that is the challenge, but I think it's a challenge for everybody, you know. So, and for them to just understand that this also isn't an instant gratification game.
Yes.
You know, we used to you go somewhere, you buy it, you want it, you've got it, etc., etc. Whereas with this, it is a bit of a long game. You've got to create familiarity. You've got to create trust amongst people, and that happens with the long game. Also, I keep reminding my clients that even the old-fashioned advertising took a long time.
Yes.
You'd see a billboard on the side of the road for a bed, for instance. You don't need a bed every single day. However, when you need a bed, you're going to go to the guys you've seen every day.
Yes.
So it's just to remind them that it hasn't changed. Advertising has never really been instant gratification.
Yes.
Even though that's what they want. So, this is, that's the challenge, but we're getting there, we're growing. And I think as we educate the clients, they're also starting to understand it more, and they're starting to see better results, but also becoming a little bit more involved themselves. People don't realize that it's work. It might be easy and anybody can do it, but it takes time and effort.
Yes.
So that's where the education comes in.
Yes. I see you do a lot of educating and support on the groups on Facebook that I'm on. And I always look out for your posts because I always learn something from them. So
thank you.
I'm actually quite excited to talk to you today because I've been following your work. You did a lovely series of photographs on Instagram a while back where you and your whole family were dressed in bright colors.
Yes.
And it absolutely appealed to me. It caught my eye when I was scrolling through that Instagram feed. It brought me to a dead stop just to look and look again. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. That is what I try and teach my clients, is it's not always about sell. It's have something interesting to show people. Show them a little bit of who you are. Yes. People want to deal with people they know, and it's this funny virtual world we live in. People don't want to necessarily even to speak to you on the phone. People rather text or whatever it is, but they want to also feel like they know someone. So it's a very strange setup. I want to know you, but I don't want to know you personally, but I want to feel like I know you personally.
Yes.
So it's creating that, that sense of trust and showing people parts of you that you want them to see,
Yes.
And that attracts your tribe, It also about what you're showing people as a person. You are connecting with people you're going to work with well.
Yes. And do you ever find challenges? So one of my personal challenges at the moment, because I've been very active in the social media space, is also understanding what's too close. So sometimes I have people who I've never met, who suddenly assume they know me too well. And then I almost have to push back, and some of them I even have to block because I'm not sure what to do with this familiarity. Do you find that's ever a challenge?
I've always had that because I've always been very visible on social media in my personal capacity. So I've just been one of those people that will always post, I love pictures. I'm that guy who takes photos of everything, and I'm always putting up photos and I'm always sharing. And because I've got quite a bad memory, I use Facebook as like a good reminder tool for myself. So I'm posting for myself, but obviously everybody sees it, and I'll go somewhere socially and somebody's like, oh, how was your holiday? Or has your finger healed or whatever? And I'm like, you don't even know me and you ask me these things or whatever it is, Yes. And I have to remind myself that I'm putting it out there. So that's okay. But also it is a case of knowing what, and I think I become better with knowing what I share and being slightly more careful with what I share. You show people what you want them to see. Yes. And you're showing it to them. You can't judge them for feeling like they know you.
Yes.
So I think it comes back to taking ownership of what you're sharing and what you prepared for people to have a vested interest in.
Yes. Yes.
So it is difficult, but I think I've learned over time sort of what I want to put out there. And I also have to remind myself on my personal page, not that there's a lot to hide, but it's connected to business. Yes. People connect. I am my business. You are your own brand. Yes. So I also need to make very sure that I'm comfortable with what people see of me in my personal capacity, because it does reflect on my business too.
Yes. Those are great insights. Thank you. Now, one of the reasons we were having this conversation today is because you had a question for me.
I do. So I have a client who, as I mentioned to you, I'm mostly focusing on Instagram and Facebook. And they've come to me with a product which I feel isn't really, those aren't the best platforms for it. I think it could aid their product, but it's not the absolute product. So it's a teaching product. So they're going to be teaching, a thing. And they want to basically sell the classes to people. And I wanted to know, I know that you are quite involved with Patreon from what I've seen. And I also have heard and been told about the teaching sort of platforms like Udemy, etc. And I want to know, how do you know where to go and what's the best platform for you if those are your products?
Okay, so I have for 4 years now been running both Patreon and Thinkific. So Thinkific is very much like Udemy, and I almost think they're put together by the same software developers, but they've just got a different skin on. Because they look very similar to me. And Patreon is where you create a subscription-based experience for people who want to connect with you on a monthly basis. So basically, they will elect a tier at a price point they can afford, and then you send them monthly benefits in exchange for their contribution. And those benefits can be all sorts of things. Up to now, I've only done digital content because my Patreon supporters are all overseas. And from South Africa, I have some challenges shipping physical goods. Shipping anything overseas from South Africa is both risky and expensive.
Sure.
And also the costs vary greatly between different places also. So how do you include that in your pricing? And all of that becomes very complicated. So up to now, I've only been doing digital product. And the digital products that I've been sharing have been things like designs to download, ebooks, early access to my online courses that I'm hosting on Thinkific.
Okay, and then you sell that on Patreon.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm able to cross-sell the content between the two. So I found Patreon is absolutely incredible for creating a predictable monthly income. So as an artist, I've never ever had a predictable monthly income. I always worked from feast to famine. I would do a job, I'd deliver it, I'd get paid, and then I'd go hunting for another one. And it was also very seasonal. So when I worked in the clothing industry, we've had a very definite seasonal kind of flow. You know, winter was small, Christmas was large. So for me to now make a predictable monthly income from month to month has been amazing. In fact, it's taken me 4 years just to get used to the fact that that money is going to come in, and I don't have to live in that sense of panic, that it becomes so much part of my normal from month end to month end. So for that, yes?
Sorry. When people join, is it a subscription, like a cell phone subscription, that you have to take it over a certain period of time, or what is the lock-in? Like, how do you know that it's going to fall off? You just know because
you don't know. They're month to month.
Okay.
They can end their subscription at any time, instantly, and they do fall away. So it's not like you just set it up and then it just happens. You have to show up and do what you say you're going to do, and you have to keep recruiting for more because there's attrition on the other side.
So for both sides, right?
Yes, and in fact, that's a great question. So my Patreon was, when I first set it up, was quite heavily connected to one of my Facebook groups. And what I found was people weren't reading the guidelines for the groups, for the behavior there. And I've got an admin team of volunteers from around the world who curate the content there. So what has happened to me over time is people have been removed from the groups for negative behavior outside of our group guidelines. And then they come back and punish me and remove their subscription because they no longer have access to the group. And this in spite of the fact that I've asked them ad nauseum to read the group guidelines before posting. So they feel that because they're paying a subscription, they're entitled to behave whichever way they please in the community. So I have recently severed that connection to try to create a Patreon space where they come to Patreon just for what's happening there. Because the negative growth I was experiencing because of that was quite frightening.
Okay, I understand.
And then going back to that conversation about boundaries earlier, I've received hate mail from some of those people, which has been quite a difficult thing to deal with, you know, because I have invested energy in creating the group, in managing the volunteers that run it, in setting it up so that everything's easy to find, the group guidelines are easy to find, all of that. And on my Patreon subscription, they get stuff. They get designs to download, ebooks, they get a bunch of stuff. So, you know, it's not saying you've given me charity now, you're going to take it away. You got a return for that money you gave me. So, you know, deal with it. So it can be quite complicated depending on how you set it up. Then to go back to your Thinkific or your Udemy or one of those. Thinkific and Udemy are very, very easy to set up. Getting people to buy the courses has been my challenge.
Do they not advertise for you?
No, not at this stage. And it might also have to do with the fact that I put 40 courses up there. Because I had 40 in my head. So I've started with this massive broad-based thing, and the people, you know, in retrospect now I realize I should have tested one.
Okay.
And also the kinds of things that I teach, a lot of people will spend a lot of time online just trawling for free information.
I'm sure.
And I've spoken to a lot of course creators who have this challenge where people will just trawl for free information and will not pay to play. Facebook is a classic case of how that works.
Yes.
How many of us use all the free Facebook stuff and refuse to pay to play? Because we can't afford to. So that conversion has been tricky for me. Where Thinkific has been useful for me is for my patrons when I want to give them, the people on the higher tiers, something of higher value than an ebook. Then I give them early access to a free online course. So the cross-selling has been useful for me, but Thinkific on its own, I'm yet to speak the right language to sell lots of courses.
All right. And tell me, in terms of the cost for you being on the different platforms, do you have monthly subscriptions, or how do they charge you? Like, is one cheaper or?
So Patreon's amazing. Actually, they're both amazing platforms. Patreon's amazing because you only pay them when you get paid.
Okay, so they
take a small percentage.
All right.
They take 3% every month.
Okay, that's good.
So we've got equal skin in the game.
Yes.
You know, they've been amazing. They've now added a new functionality this month that I've just kicked in motion. I don't know how it's going to work, where they will drop ship physical product for you.
Oh wow. Okay.
So now you can add your logos and your branding and your artwork and so if you're a creator, you can add your artwork to a mug or a t-shirt or a tote bag, and they will drop ship it for you. So you only supply the digital artwork and then they do the rest for you. And they're doing that for an 8% charge on what you earn, which again, yes, again, I feel is it's a small enough risk for me to try.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm not sure if my patrons are going to buy it though. Because my patrons came on board because they support my group, which is all about upcycled textiles, which is about reducing waste in the landfill. And now I'm adding a consumer-based product, which is not aligned with my ethos. So this week I've actually sent them an email to say, do you buy this? How do you feel about this? To understand whether they're going to drop out or not, whether I should try it, whether I should continue with it or not. So you've got to, we all like to ration and build things. If there's any advice I can give you, we all want to ration and build things. We've got these great products in our heads. Test them if you can. And Thinkific allows you to upload one course and test it before they charge you.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yes, yes. And Thinkific have actually been amazing with me. So a year ago, I had the conversation with them where they said to me, but you're not selling enough courses to pay them the yearly fees. It doesn't make sense. Why aren't you on the free platform? And I said to them, well, I've uploaded 30 courses already. If you're going to put me back onto the one free course that I can run, I lose all that information that I've already built. Okay. And they said to me that they would do a very, very special offer for me where they would extend it, that they wouldn't take my courses away. I could stay on the free platform until I could build enough of a customer base to make it viable for me to pay a monthly amount. So what I can tell you about Thinkific is they will talk to you. If you talk to them and you explain, there are people on the other end who really want to support teachers and trainers with a great platform. So I can recommend both platforms. They're amazing, and they're created by creators for creators.
Oh, you see, that definitely helps, especially I think for my clients where she's at.
Yes, yes. But I would recommend that if she's going to use Thinkific, she test first whether she can actually sell that content. You know, it's great to come up with content that you think people want, but when they're asked to pay to play, the first thing they'll do is use Google instead.
Yes.
You're competing with Google when you're creating an online course.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. As I say, you know, when I was saying it, I said, oh, I know that these are different options, and I just didn't understand what the difference is. But speaking to you, hers is definitely more of a teaching program. So honestly, I think she's going to be more suited to the what's it called? Thinkific.
Thinkific. And Thinkific's really easy to use. You don't need someone to, I mean, it's, I struggle with new software, and Thinkific I was able to work out, and I cannot work in it for 6 months and go back to it, and I don't feel like I'm lost again. I don't have to relearn the system from scratch. Some people complain that the landing page creator is a little bit clunky. It does limit you to what your landing pages can look like. Now, that might also be something that's a barrier to entry for me for my online courses, because my buyers are very visual people, and I'm not able to put as much visual onto those landing pages as I feel my customer maybe needs. So that might be part of what's not working for me, is that those landing pages, you're quite limited to what they look like. You know, they don't have 1,000 different templates, and you can only input certain stuff in certain ways. But then there are other ways of getting around that. You can create landing pages on your website, for example, and then link them back to the courses.
Yes, send them through to it. That was the other question I was going to ask you about, sort of your advertising on your social platforms to direct clients, but I'm sure that should be easy enough to do.
Yes,
courses.
You see, my challenge up to now has been, I've really been on a tight budget, so I haven't been paying to play. I haven't been paying for advertising, but it's because for some years now I've just been eating. Eating and building, you know, building those 40 courses before I thought it through.
Well, I think many people are on the same page, you know, but I do think to learn that lesson as well, and to say to them, you know, invest now.
Yes.
You know, and I know in this particular case, fortunately, my client has got a little bit to play with.
Yes.
So to pay to play. So to advise her, do it, you know, start off right and do it from the beginning, and it will become word of mouth. I mean, she really seems to have a very good product. Obviously, she's going to have to test the waters, but if it goes according to plan, it's just to get that initial traffic through there and then to start also having the referrals and that kind of thing.
So here the other barrier to entry that I must maybe talk about is the fact that both of these platforms are set up in US dollars. If her customers are South Africans don't like to use PayPal. They're afraid of PayPal, and as soon as they see a US dollar amount, they want to know what the special South African price is.
Yeah, fortunately, and this was one of the things that she brought up, is she doesn't want to play in the South African markets.
Okay. As long as she's playing overseas, she'll do better.
Good.
Yeah, she'll do better overseas. The South African market is not ready for PayPal. Most of them don't have PayPal, and most of them want a special rand price because of the ghastly exchange rate that we've got.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes. So that was one of my other barriers to entry, was when I set up all of these things, I had no network overseas.
Okay.
I've been building that network as fast as I could. And so, which means I'm still quite new to all of them. The people who've known me for 20 years now are not the people I'm selling to at the moment. Is that helpful?
Well, this has been great advice. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very, very good advice. Thank you. It's pretty much in line with what I was thinking, but because it's not where I play, you've just confirmed a lot of it and added to it. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's a huge pleasure. It's a huge pleasure. I'm so happy that my tough learning curve can support others.
Well, absolutely, you know, and this is the thing with people like us, I think, is that we're willing to take risks and we're willing to try new things and to put ourselves out there. And that's why, you know, people do pay us, because we've done it. We've done the school fees, you know.
Yes.
So, and we prepared to also connect with other people and to share information and to learn and then to pass that information on.
Yes, yes.
Which is vital in today's changing world, I think.
Yes, yes. We are operating in a new framework completely. So, Karin, if anybody's looking to get hold of you and use your services, where can they find you?
So best would be, I think, just to go on Instagram or Facebook and Blurb Magic. Easy to remember. Blurb's a short description and magic is what I do with it.
Awesome. And I've seen some of your magic at work and you do a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. And thanks so much for that advice.
Pleasure.